What's up, everybody? It's your guy, Mr. Hard Work, Hard and Hustle, Attorney Michael Mills here with my brand new podcast, I Got Time Today. Now, listen, I've been planning it and thinking about doing this for a long, long time, and I'm so excited to finally have it up and running and to invite you in. And in that respect, I have one of my longtime friends, Mr. Raj, that's going to be here with me in putting this podcast together. And I'd like for you guys to give him a warm Florida welcome, Mr. Raj.
Thank you, Michael. Super excited to be here on the podcast. And I'm really happy and super pumped, super stoked that, yeah, you've finally gone ahead and taken the step to start this. And I must tell everyone, the audience, and everyone who's gonna be watching us, that this man has been in the trenches and meandering through, a lot of stuff's legal, you know, for the last 25 years. I remember last year, around October, you completed the 10th anniversary of your own law firm, and prior to that, you have been doing this for like you've been doing this for like 25 years. So it is going to be not just fun, but a session full of knowledge to each and everyone who has a lot of questions related to legal stuffs, and they can have their questions answered from one of the best in the industry. So yeah, I'm super glad and super excited to be a part of this, Michael. Thank you so much.
Raj, you're far too kind, but I thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. So yeah, recently, Michael, you launched Debt Assistance Law Firm. What made you, I know about you've quite built the empire, injury assistance law firm, 10 years, injury assistance network, one of the um, one of the most needed kind of a service in this personal injury industry. You came up with this, which has been doing rounds and getting a lot of appreciation and applaud from the folks in and around Florida. And you're planning, you had this big launch, you're planning to do this whole nationwide thing with injury assistance network. Now, just 2 weeks back, you launched Debt Assistance Law Firm. So first thing is, what made you get into debt assistance, debt relief? Tell us more about this.
I'm glad you asked. So I know with the economy being the way it is and the way it's looking like it will be again, a lot of folks are under financial distress and financial pressure. And I know from personal experience that that's not an easy thing to do or an easy place to be in. And I was just thinking to myself, what can I do that can also be of service to individuals that I serve? And that was one of the things that came to mind. Doing bankruptcy, we only do Chapter 7. As Roz was saying, most of my career I've been in personal injury. Well, I could say all of my career I've been in personal injury. And so with Debt Assistance Law Firm and taking on the Chapter 7s, which is the personal bankruptcy, it's a way that, I can help and utilize the knowledge that I have and the knowledge that I've gained from taking my CLE classes and being around other attorneys that do bankruptcy to help individuals that would come and seek me out.
So, yeah, I'll tell you, everyone in the audience, I must tell you that right before we started, I saw a book of, bankruptcy codes on his table, a red book, right? Can you show it? Can you show it to each one of us? Yeah,
Right here.
that is the one that I'm talking about. So yeah, you're kind of taking this debt relief thing really seriously.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
So Michael, first thing is, I want to take you back in time, 25 years. It's a huge amount of time. You're now 50, 51. If I'm
Bro, why you putting my business out there like that, man? Come on now.
So, 25 years, like 50% of your life, almost, or more than that, you've spent practicing law. And you have been one of the best lawyers, one of the most polite, dedicated, and passionate person that I've come across. And, you know, so what was the spark that got you rolling into this? Like, you could have done anything. You were a very bright student, as I'm told, from a lot of your family members. You could have done anything. What was the, motive? What was the factor that got you into, becoming a lawyer?
There's a funny story behind that. I won't bore you too long, so I'll give you the shortened version. Um, as a kid, I grew up in the Virgin Islands in St. Croix, and growing up in the VI, I never wanted for anything, but at the same time, we didn't live like the kids lived here in the U.S. And so for me, one of the things that really piqued my interest was the Cosby Show. Because for me, the first time I was seeing a black family, a black successful family, Cliff Huxtable being the doctor and Claire Huxtable being the attorney. And they lived from what I thought was a big, beautiful house. They had the kids, Theo, God rest his soul, Malcolm Jamal Warner, Denise, and the others, little Rudy Huxtable, and then I forget Vanessa. Yes, and so they played a super integral part in my thoughts of what I could become in the future. They lived in this beautiful house, and that was the first time that I saw a house that had stairs on the inside. And in the islands, we have two-story homes, but the second story usually has a different family living upstairs, right? So there are two stories, but they didn't connect on the inside. And so seeing that just blew my mind. And as crazy as it may seem, that was one of the triggers that made me say, look, if being a doctor or a lawyer can get you living in a house like that and a nice neighborhood like that, then that's what I'm going to be. I'm either going to be a doctor or a lawyer. Fast forward, I came to the point where I realized that I was not cut out to be a doctor. I didn't really like the sight of blood and all the other things that goes along with being a doctor.
Okay.
So that only left me one choice, and that was to be a lawyer. And that's what I did.
Wow. So, after completing your degree in law, what made you specifically choose personal injury? Was there a point or something personal that pushed you into personal injury?
Well, I wish I could come up with this really valiant story of how I always wanted to be a personal injury attorney, and I wanted to always help the small person or small people, but actually that's not what happened. Going to law school, I've had fully set in my head that I was going to be a corporate attorney. I didn't really know what a corporate attorney was, but coming up, LA law, they were all corporate attorneys and they were fancy and they had the fancy suits, and I just said, look, I want to be a lawyer. They look like they got it going on. I want to be a corporate attorney. And going through law school is when you finally start to see what it's really about. And even still, once I graduated, I wasn't really of the mindset of being in corporate, being a corporate attorney. I lived in, I went to school at Florida State, so up in Tallahassee. I was already married, and so in Tallahassee, we pretty much, most people work for the state in Tallahassee. If you guys didn't know, so in law school, I worked for the state. I worked in the Department of, Department of Business or Business Regulations or something. I can't even remember right now. But my first job out of law school and after passing the bar was at an insurance defense firm. I just wanted to find a job in Tallahassee. My wife was still in college, so I was trying to find a job in Tallahassee, and the job that I got was as an insurance defense attorney. Didn't really know what an insurance defense attorney did either. They teach you a lot of things in law school, but they don't really teach you how to be a lawyer, right? You kind of learn that on the job. They give you all the tools to be a lawyer, but you kind of learn how to be a lawyer on the job. And so when I got my first job as an insurance defense attorney, that kind of opened me up to the personal injury aspect of law, but on the opposite side of where I am now. Then once my wife graduated, we moved back down to Orlando, and because at that point I had a year's worth of insurance defense experience, I used that to get me my first job here in Orlando, which was at one of the largest insurance defense firms at the time in the state of Florida, and that was Conroy Simberg. Worked there for 5 years, and it's during that time where I really learned a lot. My boss was a tough guy to deal with, but he was he was a smart guy, but very tough. I learned a lot. I learned how the insurance companies evaluate cases. I learned how what they put emphasis on. I learned what's important as an insurance defense attorney, and then I learned what was important to me. And around my 5th year there, that's when my wife got pregnant with our twins. And for me, I wanted to be able to spend more time with them. And at that firm, I was required to work on weekends, work an insane amount of billable hours each month, and that was not going to work with my situation at the time. So at that point, I decided to switch sides. That and the fact that I didn't really like working for the insurance company. As an insurance defense attorney, your job is to help the insurance company save money, which means that no matter how bad you think the plaintiff deserves whatever amount of money they're demanding, or because of an injury that they've suffered, you have to do what the insurance company says, or what that insurance adjuster says in regards to how they evaluate that case. And I didn't really, it didn't jive with how I looked at life. I tend to be more for the people. I tend to be more for the little guy, the underdog. And so I switched sides and started doing plaintiff work, and that was like in 2006. And that was the beginning of my plaintiff personal injury career, 2006, and have been doing it ever since.
So that this is something that I've been actually wanting people to understand, and I would want you to tell people, like as you said that you were an insurance defense attorney when you started. So I know for a fact how much this is an added advantage for a personal injury lawyer, because you've been there, done that for a quite a good amount of time. So how does it give you an advantage over other, attorneys or peers in a similar industry when they do not have an, experience of, being what you have? And so how does it actually help you?
Um, so having experience of both sides can be very critical. Like I said, one of the most important things in uh, working for the insurance company in the past is knowing how they evaluate cases. Now, obviously, it's been quite some time since I've worked for an insurance company, but not a whole lot has changed. Some of the smaller things have changed, but the overall premise is still the same. Um, they're going to look at certain things in regards to treatment, in regards to the way the accident occurred, in regards to the individual themselves. They look at that stuff and they put a certain dollar value on those things. Me having that experience, I know what that is, and in so doing, I can then accordingly advise my clients on ways to avoid them, things to do to increase the evaluation of their case, and then it's up to the client as to whether or not they want to listen. Typically they do, but sometimes they don't, and it's their prerogative. My job, the way I look at my job, is it is my duty to advise my client on what I think is the best route for them as far as the case. Now, the case and the actual individual, sometimes, sometimes they can differ. For example, I know that with certain cases, if my client has a surgery or is recommended for a surgery, that's good for the case. But that might not necessarily be good for the client. Maybe they're afraid. Maybe the pain isn't sufficient enough for them to go through the risk of having that surgery. And so I fully respect that. I give them the information, how it will affect their case, and then the ball is in their court because they're the ones that's going to have to live with whatever results are from that surgical procedure or medical procedure, whatever the case may be.
So, just a question, out of the box question. Let's say if you weren't a lawyer, what would you be? And since you said you would not be a doctor because you did not like the blood and all that, so what would you be if not a lawyer?
If not a lawyer, um, I don't know. I probably would be doing something in sales. I do like I like the sales industry. I don't know what I'd be selling, but it would be something where I have interaction with other individuals because I do appreciate that. I like that, and it would also have to be something where I have independence. I don't want to have to go into somebody's job and clock in. So it'd have to be in sales, and it'd have to be something where I have the freedom to do as I see fit, as long as I'm getting the job done.
Great. You are a big time, huge fitness enthusiast. Like you don't miss your workouts, you don't skip your, the activities that you do. So wouldn't you have preferred being a sports person or something of that sort?
No. Fitness and my working out, that's what I do for my personal health and my personal fitness. It's not something that I want to make into a career. I do it because I love doing it and I want to do it, not because I have to do it. Well, I kind of have to do it to stay in good shape, but you know what I mean. It's not something that I do that I think I enjoy doing to make money from. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, I understand what you mean, Michael. Now, Michael, coming back to the area of discussion, that is practicing law, personal injury law. You've been doing this for the last 25 years now, and I'm sure you've seen it all. You know, wild cases, heartfelt moments, moments that break down people, moments, like filled with a lot of pride. I want to ask you one question. What is the most ridiculous question that you've come across, you've been asked by a client?
Hmm. The most ridiculous question. Well, all right. So there's you know how the teacher says there's no bad question. I usually like to live by that, but sometimes, just sometimes, there can be some really really crazy questions that folks will ask. Um, for me, the one that always gets me kind of just chuckling to myself is, you know, right after the person gets into the accident, right before like they're signing their contract, we don't know anything about their case. They haven't even been to the doctor yet. They don't have any broken bones, but we don't know anything more than that. Is that they didn't break anything, and they will look me squarely in my face and ask, "So, how much you think my case is worth?" And I have to just tell them like I have absolutely no idea, not at this point. You know, unless you have been in a serious accident and you are damn near dead, and it's either a commercial policy, 18-wheeler, FedEx, somebody that has a lot of coverage on their motor vehicle or commercial vehicle, I can't tell you what you're going to get. A case like that, I know it's going to be worth millions. I still don't know how many millions, but I know it'll be worth millions because I know that the commercial policy has at least a million, and if you are jacked the fuck up, then that also lets me know that you have serious injuries, and injuries plus the proper policy that typically leads to millions. Other than that, it's really a crapshoot. We have to see the medical records. We have to know what the treatment is. We have to know what your past medicals are. If you've been in previous accidents, if you have existing injuries or pre-existing injuries, there's a whole lot of things that goes into the evaluation of what a case is worth. So knowing it right off the gate with very limited facts is very difficult to do.
Okay. So Michael, what is the one red flag you think that, like this person might not be telling me the actual scenario or the real deal that has happened with them?
A red flag that lets me know that a person might not be being the most upfront that they can be is when they're real sketchy on the facts of the accident. Like they don't quite know, or they can't quite tell me with any specificity how the accident occurred, or their description of how the accident occurred changes based on the number of times that you ask. It's also a red flag that the insurance company is going to look at as well, because as we go on in the case, there are going to be questions. If we file a lawsuit, then they're going to be deposed and have to sit for a deposition, and the attorneys for the insurance company are going to ask those very same questions, and are going to ask those questions in different ways multiple times. And if they catch them saying different things each time that they ask the question, then it's a red flag for them as well. So I prefer to catch a red flag way before we even get to that point. So those are things that I look for when interviewing a client. It's not just the client interviewing me to see if they want to retain me as their counsel, but I also have to interview the client to make sure that I want to take them on as a client as well.
Thank you so much, Michael. Again, to everyone listening to this, please make sure to give the exact details of the accident or whatever the incident that occurred with you, so that any attorney, be it Michael or anyone, can get you the right, you know, amount, right compensation, or the right
The best,
justice.
yeah, the best result for their
Exactly.
case. That's how I try to frame it. Is I want to maximize the amount that we can get for you, because each case is different, each facts are different. Policy limits, medical treatment needed, everything is different. So what Bob got might not be the same as what Jerry got, even though they both were in car accidents. Each person had different injuries, and that's pretty standard.
Okay, fantastic. So Michael, this is a question that came into my mind. Like, so has it ever happened that a client walks in and he's telling you about the case, but like he's faking an injury to you? Does this occur, and how often, how frequent is that?
Um, I won't say that they fake injuries. What I will say, and this does happen, is that they may embellish the severity of an injury. They certainly have been injured, but the severity of the injury, that's most times only the individual can say with any certainty how much pain they're in. Pain is subjective, right? Um, and so that's one of the reasons when we're handling cases that we have to go based on objective findings. So that's why an MRI is so important, because no matter if a person is trying to fake that they're in pain, or actually they may actually be in pain, having those things that can objectively show that there's a reason for them to have that pain is critical, especially in PI cases.
So, moving on to a different topic, Michael. You are a busy guy, you know, multiple firms and multiple locations. You have offices in Winter Haven and Orlando. You have court dates, deposition, client meetings almost all the time. And
Family, don't forget the family.
yes, I was coming to that. And then you have a family. I know almost everyone in your family, and you have a big happy family, very closely knit. Um, so do you even get time to watch any TV series? And if yes, I would want to know one thing. What's your favorite legal themed movie or show? And be honest, are those really realistic, just so you know, or over dramatized?
So, being honest, yes, I do get to watch TV. That's one of the things that I'll do with my wife is watch TV, and my girls, because Love Island, that's really big for the family, and yes, I'll just sit down and watch with the fam. But what I can honestly say is I don't really watch legal series.
Okay.
I don't, because I'm always in my head about it. Like, that's not how that actually works. And my family's like, just be quiet. We don't want to hear all that. And so for me, it's like I can't put it aside, and it just takes all the fun out of it. So I watch everything except for legal shows. However, I will say that while I was in law school, one of my favorite legal movies was The Devil's Advocate with Al Pacino and Keanu Reeves. That was an amazing movie, but it was a long time ago too.
So, in the recent scheme of things, Suits has become, hugely popular. Harvey Specter, he's like the go-to lawyer of kind of the country. So, Suits has become very popular. Do you really think a lawyer's life is like that?
Well, like I said, I don't really watch legal shows, so I really don't have any idea who Ari Specter is on Suits because I've never really watched Suits.
Uh, that's some statement, I must say that, Michael. So, coming to the second part of the question, so right after, binge watching Suits, my Instagram feed got flooded with memes, with content on Suits, and then came across a point when, Instagram started sending me legal memes, attorney memes, and so on and so forth. Um, by the way, do you like any of the legal memes? If yes, which one is your favorite?
I don't know. Legal memes. None that comes to mind other than well, there's plenty of legal jokes or lawyer jokes, but I don't know them well enough to even try to say them right now. What I will say is that one of the legal memes is I think it was from Clear and Present Danger, but I'm not sure where. Again, it was Al Pacino, and he was being examined in court as a witness, or was it Jack Nicklaus? I can't remember. But one of the lines from that was like, "Damn it, you can't handle the truth," and that's again, I'm mixing it up, I'm sure, but that's one of those legal lines that stick out even up to this day.
Right. Again, audience, I must tell you that Michael is one of the nicest guys you come across, and he's very serious, very passionate about his job. And more than that, it's kind of, like I've seen this with you, Michael, and I've, also seen a lot of lawyers. Some of them kind of are not very serious about their profession, but when it comes to you, you've taken this to your heart that, yeah, this is something that you wear up your sleeve. Like, yeah, I'm an attorney, and I'm representing this. I remember when I came in contact with you first, you were like, okay, we are serious people. We represent a certain class. Serious does not mean like you do not laugh and all. You are a very happy person, but again, like being true to the job, being like aware of the situation, because you deal with clients, deal with people who are already in a lot of distress, who are in a lot of pain or trouble, and so on and so forth. So you need to kind of take that thing very seriously, and take that thing with a lot of care and importance. And that is how. And yeah, I was going through the reviews on your Google My Business page, and most of the people have one thing in common to say, that your firm takes personalized care of these people. And that's something that is a big takeaway, because having been working with this industry for a long time, a lot of people say that the law firms are not going ahead and taking personal care of me. And I was just reading an interview, a review today actually, of a client who switched from a big law firm to a different law firm, that citing reasons that they were not taking or they were not prioritizing their case, and people in pain, or this kind of situation, they want to be given priority, they want to be prioritized. So how does your law firm take care of this and ensure that, and this could be kind of a very game changing advice for the newcomers who are starting their law firm. So how have you done? And yeah, just to give the audience one more info, and you have 100 plus reviews. So again, yeah.
And look, and those reviews, we are very proud of those reviews. There's plenty more clients that just haven't done reviews, but we try to make sure that we focus on our clients. That's like the main thing. Like the motto of the firm is hard work, heart, and hustle. So we put our hard work, heart, and hustle to work for our clients. We're not a huge firm. We're a boutique firm. And being a small boutique firm, it's important for us to make sure that we deliver that level of attention, professionalism, and care to each and every one of our clients, so that they don't feel like they're at a big firm. They're coming to us for a reason. They want to know that they can call and either speak to the paralegal that's handling their case, or the attorney that's handling the case. On my business cards, each and every one of my business cards has my personal cell phone number. So I get text messages from clients all the time. I was on vacation last week. I was getting text messages uh, from my clients, from prior clients, referring me new clients. So I really take that as something that's super important. That's a big deal for me. Every time we, every time we get a client, especially if it's from one of the big firms, the the absolute first thing that they say is that as for the reason that they're switching from the big firm to us or looking to switch to us is because they're saying that they cannot get in contact with their attorney or they're getting the runaround. They don't know what's going on with their case. And we want to make sure that if that person comes to us, that we always keep that at the forefront. They always have a way to reach us. We keep them advised of what's going on in their case. I've purchased software called Case Status that we create a portal so they have like direct access not only just to me but to my staff as well, that they can text the staff, text the office. Everyone gets the text message and can answer any questions that they may have via text or phone call or email. So we try to make it as easy as possible, especially in this day and age of texting and emailing and Zoom calls and everything. Our clients want to have the convenience of being with a big firm, but at the same time, the personal touch of being with a small firm, and that's what we try to add.
There's a myth or a fact, I don't know. It's for you to answer, but a lot of people say or have this question or have this cloud of doubt in their head that if I go to a small boutique firm like yours, as you are citing, then their amount of compensation may go down because the smaller firms, as compared to the bigger firms, don't have much say or don't have that kind of authority to get them higher compensation. How true is that, or what exactly do you want to debunk something here, please?
Oh, absolutely. Look, small boutique firms get big results too. It's really just a matter of the firm, the specific firm. There are things that you have to think about when you're dealing with a small firm. Whether or not they put their cases into litigation, whether they try their cases or not. Those are huge things because, in fact, the insurance companies look at that as well. They want to know whether or not you're at a firm that settles everything without going into litigation. For me, that's one thing that I pride myself on. If the insurance company is not making an offer that's reasonable and that my client wants to accept, we go into litigation. We will put that case into litigation and take it all the way to the trial. And I think that's super important because that's usually, especially with the laws that the recent tort reform laws that's been passed, insurance companies just think that they can get away with just offering you pennies on the dollar and think that you're going to accept it. And if you're a small firm or even a big firm or just an attorney that, you know, is afraid of putting the case into litigation and trying it, and you just accept whatever they're offering, they're going to continue to offer you that crap. So I think it's important that you as an attorney want to do your best and represent your client to the fullest, and if that requires you putting their case into litigation, then that's just what you have to do.
Fabulous, fabulous. So, you having answered all of these questions, Michael, I know that the kind of contacts you have, and you've been doing this for 25 plus years as of now. I think I've said that many times. You could have easily gone ahead and become a big firm, given you have been, top 100 lawyers in your community, and you almost go to a lot of conventions. You are called to many places to go ahead and be a speaker, to be on the jury, and so on and so forth. You could have easily gone ahead and become a big law firm, but what is exactly kept you like this? What have you been like, okay, yeah, I want to stay like this? What has been the reason behind that?
So for me, what I like about having the boutique sized firm is it offers me the ability to still be in contact with my client. I still get to, when I'm here, I get to see each client when we give them the check. I love, that's like one of my favorite parts of being an attorney is when I hand that check to the client. They're super happy with the results that we've gotten for them. They either give me a handshake, a hug, a smile, whatever the case may be. And that's one of the biggest things that I really take away from having this size firm. That and the staff that's been with me has been with me for such a long time. Yanira and Fritz, they've been with me for. I've had this practice now for 11 years. Last year we celebrated our 10-year anniversary, and Fritz has been with me for the full 11 years. Yanira has been with me for 10 years now. So. And then I have other staff that's come and gone. I've had associate attorneys that's come and gone, and I've sent paralegals that were paralegals to law school, and now they're attorneys, and just having that type of environment where it's kind of like a family, a work family environment. Those attorneys still come by and say hello, and I get to sit and talk with them and see how they're doing and what they're doing. I have attorneys that have now gone off and started their own practices. So having that connection with both my staff and my clients is truly the reason I like the way my firm is set up.
And yeah, everyone must know that Michael loves his wife a lot, and he likes to spend a lot of the time there as well, and his family.
Absolutely.
So
She
yes,
is pretty fun.
had you chased that big law firm thing, maybe you would not have been able to dedicate the amount of time that you are able to your family.
Yeah, never know.
Moving on, Michael, this is a burning question, and this is something that a lot of people would want to know. Like, let's say I get into a fender bender, I'm shaken up. What is the first thing that I'm supposed to do? What is the first step that I should take?
Okay, well, first you definitely want to make sure that you call the police or law enforcement. You want to do that. You want to do that first because I don't know about anywhere else, but here in Florida, sometimes it can take a long time for law enforcement to get on the scene. So the sooner you call them, it gets that clock rolling. It could be a half hour, it could be an hour, it could be 2 hours. Even sometimes there's situations where people wait longer than that, depending on what else is going on in the area around you. All right. So once you call law enforcement and reported that you've been in an accident, then you want to make sure that you document the scene. That means you take pictures, preferably, and only if you can do it safely, preferably before you move the vehicles, but only if you can do it safely. If you're in the middle of the road, if you're on I-4 or on a turnpike, then you probably want to get out of the lane of oncoming traffic or through traffic before you take pictures. But if you're on a road where there's not a lot of traffic and and you got in an accident and you can safely take pictures of both vehicles or all of the vehicles involved in the accident, then I would prefer that you take those pictures before moving the vehicles. Once you've moved the vehicles, if you can't take those photos, then you make sure you take photos, document the scene. I mean, you take pictures of any parts of your vehicle that's no longer on your vehicle. If there's tire marks, you want to take pictures of those. Of course, there'll be the officer probably is going to do that, but sometimes they don't, especially if it's at night and or you've been waiting for a long time, and by the time they get there, it's nighttime. You want to take those pictures as soon as you possibly can. Um, Once the police get there, you want to give them your information, give them your driver's license, of course, your insurance information, and the other parties will do the same. And I say that because sometimes people will say, we can handle it amongst our insurance companies or amongst ourselves. Look, I can't tell you how many times that people's stories change after they leave the scene of the accident. You know, the at fault party is now claiming that they're the ones that were actually hit when we know that's not the situation. And if you don't have a police officer or law enforcement there to document actually how the accident happened, potentially as witnesses, then it becomes your word against theirs. And if you can potentially avoid that, you want to avoid that. It's a lot more difficult to do that if it's a rear end collision. But if it's a side swipe type of collision, or even sometimes a T-bone collision, where you had the green light, they had the red light, that could just as easily become you had the red and they had the green and you ran the light. So you want to make sure that you call the police, and make sure you wait for them to get there, and that way both parties can give, or all three, or how many ever parties can give their side of how the accident happened. You don't want to talk too much to the at-fault party. You don't want to admit or say sorry unless you are actually at fault. But you want to keep those things in mind. And then you want to make sure that you contact an attorney. I say contact an attorney first, but that's only if your injuries or your situation isn't such that you have to go immediately to the hospital. If you have to go immediately to the hospital, go to the hospital. But if you're in a situation where you know that you're injured, or you may not even feel injured just yet, because a lot of times these things take time for your body to let you know that you've been injured. Your body's in shock. Right. You're amped up on adrenaline, and you might not realize at that moment that you're injured, or that your neck hurts or your back hurts. So you want to call an attorney. A good attorney will be able to assist you with linking up with medical providers that's going to take care of you. That's one of the things that I do, and that's one of the reasons I created the Injury Assistance Network. Exactly, so that it's way easier for those providers, for my clients to find those providers in their areas that can take care of them, give them the treatment they need, and give us the records that we need so that we can effectively and aggressively litigate your case.
Now, taking cues from the last answer that you gave, what if it's a minor accident? Should I report it? What's the rule of thumb there?
You definitely want to report, even if it's a minor accident, and you want to go and get checked out within 14 days. In Florida, you have 14 days to get checked out in order for your PIP, your personal injury protection benefits, to still cover your bills for any medical treatment that you may require as a result of this accident. Look, I know so many situations where the person was in a low damage or low impact collision. So that just means that there was not a lot of damage to their vehicle, but they are still injured. They have neck pain or back pain as a result. Now, same thing goes in the other direction as well. There have been situations where folks have been in a really bad crash. The car is mangled and they walk out of it feeling fine. No pain weeks or even months down the road. So I just say that to say that the amount of damage to the vehicle doesn't always necessarily show you a clear picture of the amount of damage to the individual.
Okay. Now, coming to insurance, Like, let's talk about insurance here. What should I
Bane of
say?
my
Or better
existence.
yet, please, you were saying something.
I said the bane of my existence, insurance companies, but
Oh, yes.
necessary evil. Let's go. I won't go into. I won't go down that pit hole.
What should I say? Or better yet, what should I not say to the other driver or or their insurance company?
You shouldn't say anything until you get in contact with an attorney and retain an attorney, because the things that you say, and you may say things unknowingly that can come back to bite you in the butt. Um, yeah, and you want to be on the phone with somebody like an attorney that can guide you and can guide the insurance adjuster, stop them from asking questions that are outside the purview of what they should be asking at that point. You're not a doctor, you don't know what your injuries are. And if they ask you if you're injured and you say, no, I feel fine, and then, the next day or the next week, you start having pain or having stiffness, then they're going to point back to that conversation, that recorded statement that you gave them, that you said no, you felt fine. Of course, we can still get over that or get around that, but it just makes it a little more difficult than it has to be.
Definitely. So, yes, you definitely need to go ahead and take medical treatment, at least get yourself checked for any injuries, deep injuries on the inside. So, yeah, we do not know what goes on inside the body, like nerve damage and then tissue damage that kind of unravel after years or months. So, yeah, it's better to be safe than sorry. One thing I would want to talk about here is, Michael, injury assistance network. I know the amount of hard work that you have been putting in, the amount of toil that you have been, the amount of focus you have been giving to this project. So, can you please tell the audience how Injury Assistance Network, aka Ian, can help an accident victim step by step?
Oh, sure. So the whole purpose by which I created Ian was to, one, help myself. I was the first person that helped, because as an attorney with clients all over the state, you know, there were oftentimes, my practice is located in Central Florida, but I would get clients in South Florida or North Florida, and when that would happen, I didn't have my network of the doctors and folks that I was used to using didn't typically go that far. And so I would have to rely on just doing a general Google search and crossing my fingers that whichever provider I contacted actually knew a thing or two about personal injury, knew how to take care of clients, knew how to document their files, knew the information that I would need so that I can aggressively litigate my client's case. And I figured that there had to be a better way to do that, as opposed to just going on Google or calling my lawyer friends and saying, "Hey, do you know somebody up in Duval County or wherever the case may be?" There had to be an easier way, a more efficient way to do that, and that's what I came up with, Injury Assistance Network. And so, making it easy for attorneys like myself, I'm like, well, we should also make it, public facing, so that just the general public would have access to a whole list of different medical and service providers that they could search based on the specialty, based on the area in which they needed. You can search now by their location, their zip code, their street address. We have the map there, so we make it super easy. That was one of the things that I was most excited about with this new launch of the Injury Assistance Network platform, was that we created that to enable it to be so much more user-friendly for both attorneys and my colleagues and the general public, to find qualified, well-vetted personal injury medical providers and personal injury service providers.
Thank you so much for this explanation, Michael. And yeah, I really hope that Ian serves the purpose and is actually a game changer in the personal injury space. Now, coming back to documenting a scene, an accident scene, how important is that, and what exactly should people be taking photos of? I know you've mentioned that earlier, but yes, yeah, let's talk about this in details here.
When I say document the scene, like I said, you want to take pictures of the vehicles. All right. Yeah, you can take pictures of them of the damage to the vehicle up close, but you also want to step back a little bit so you can get the context, the situation of how the cars collided. And that's why I say if you can do it safely, only if you can do it safely, take photos of the vehicles before you move them, because once you move them, you can't. It's a lot more difficult to say where the actual. I mean, you could tell by where the damages are, but you can. If you take photos before the vehicles are moved, you can see exactly where and at what angle each vehicle was at the point of impact. Secondly, if you can see if there's any screech marks on the road, you want to take photos of that. If you see any parts of either vehicle on the road, you want to take photos of that. And then, obviously, once you sign up, you come into the office. We tend to take pictures ourselves so that we can make sure that we can properly document for our purposes when we're doing the demand, so we can specifically state the amount of damage that was done to the vehicle, or if there's not a whole lot of damage, there's things that we can do, such as doing an ECM download of the vehicle, so we can see exactly how fast the vehicle was going, when did they brake. There's things that you can look under to see if there might not be any damage to the outer shell of the vehicle, but under the bumper you can see if there's the amount of force that went into that bumper. You can get mechanical experts to measure that as well. So there's a whole bunch of things that we can do in order to document the damage, document the accident, and of course that police report serves a major part for us, because that has the information of the at-fault party, their insurance company, their policy number, their name.
Wonderful. Now, I definitely need to ask you this question, and it's very critical for the times to come and the times we are living in. We are living in the times of artificial intelligence. Now, what if someone tries to manipulate photos of the accident scene? Like, let's say you're able to identify it. What happens after that? What are the consequences? Is there any penalty, or so on and so forth?
Yeah, obviously there would be penalties if someone submits a forged or artificially generated photo as evidence. Typically, that only really becomes an issue if the case is in trial. We'd have an opportunity to actually examine the photo. Hopefully you would, as the client, would be able to say whether or not the situation is as is described or shows in the photo. But if it's determined to be a artificially generated photo, then that's something that, as you say, is very brand new, and it's something that we just have to deal with as it comes.
Thank you so much for this clarification. And when is it time to call someone like you? Where is that line between I can handle this myself and I need legal help now?
Call us immediately. You just look. So many people do more damage to their case when they try to handle it themselves. And that's one of the things that the insurance companies will do. They'll make the client an offer. We'll pay you $3,000, just right out the gate, $3,000, or sometimes even $5,000. Now we don't know. You don't know a lot of things when they're doing that. You don't know what the policy limits are. They're doing it pretty soon after the accident actually occurred. So You don't know the severity of your injuries. You don't know what your injuries are going to cost as far as medical bills. You don't know if you're going to need surgery. And if you take that 2,500, that 3,000, that 5,000, this person might have $100,000 policy, and you just sold your case out for $5,000 because you didn't want to wait. You didn't want to contact someone that could help you navigate the process, and that you haven't gotten the treatment that you need. You don't know if you're going to potentially require more invasive treatment. You might need injections. You might need surgery, God forbid. But you don't know any of that. So just immediately taking that $2,500, that $3,000, that $5,000, just because it seems like it's a lot of money, it really isn't when it comes to, your health and what you might potentially need in the future to make yourself feel better.
Thank you so much for this information, Michael. Now, tell me the process, like step by step. How exactly does your team help accident victims? Like someone got into an accident, now they call you. Step by step, what happens?
So step by step, once they call us, once they've signed up with us, the first thing that we're going to do is reach out to the insurance companies for both them and for the at-fault party. We do that so that we can know what we're working with, what type of policy the at-fault party has, what type of coverage that our client has. Maybe they have uninsured motorist coverage. We don't know until we actually submit our letters, our letters requesting that information, so that we know exactly what type of coverages that we're looking for. Secondly, we're going to make sure that you're treated. The only way that we can build a strong case is that if we can show that you have some sort of permanent injury. The only way to confirm whether or not you have a permanent injury is for you to treat, for you to go to the doctor, for you to get evaluated, and during that process of rehabilitation with the doctor, they'll do things such as sending you for an MRI in the places that you are complaining of pain. If that happens and your MRI results come back positive, then they're probably going to send you out to be evaluated by a specialist, either a neurosurgeon or orthopedic, depending on where your injury is. These are the things that we rely on. Those records, those opinions from those doctors, your treating physicians, are what we rely on when it's time to send out that demand based on whatever the policy limits are of the individual that hits you or on your UM. And that's kind of how we navigate the case for the client, or help them navigate. Our purpose is to make sure that our client only has to focus on getting better while we deal with everything else.
Thank you so much. Now, we are always on social media these days. In fact, on social media, it's become a rage of going ahead and posting live stories, or going live, or live streaming anything and everything. So how does it hamper your case if you're going live on social media or posting stories about an accident that you just had, or maybe posting accident few days later of your accident?
Okay, so one of the things that we do when we sign up clients is we make sure that we have them sign a form that kind of gives them the details about the restrictions that we place on them for posting things on social media. The reason we do that is because all of that information, all of those videos, those photos, that becomes potentially relevant information that the at-fault party and their attorney can subpoena or get to show that one, you were out in the club dancing right after the accident, or two, you're like, I'm about to get this bag, I just got in an accident, that actually happened, or three, the first thing out of your mouth was, I'm going to sue you. Those don't look good. you don't want to post that on social media because that can essentially come back to bite you in the butt. The last thing that a jury wants to see is that the first thing out of your mouth was that I'm going to sue you, or I'm about to get some money. Because now they're thinking, oh, this person just wants to get money. They're not even really injured. And the best way to avoid that is just to not post things about your accident on social media. If you're injured, if you've been in an accident, you don't want to. You want to lay off social media. You want to stop posting things about you going out to the club or even your vacations, because all of those things become evidence that they can get and use against you.
Remember, if you've been in an accident, the only place where you're sending those photos is to your attorney.
That's right.
Moving on to the next question. There's a very popular belief that people think that, okay, yeah, I have insurance and I got into an accident. I will dial the insurance company, get the compensation money. I do not need to consult an attorney. What do you have to say about that?
I did a video on that a while back. I called it full coverage or fool's coverage, right? I say that because, a lot of folks will swear up and down when they come into my office, oh, I have full coverage, I got everything I need, the insurance company is going to take care of me, and that nothing could be further from the truth. The truth is, here, in order for you to have full coverage, all you need to have is personal injury protection coverage, which pays for your medical bills at 80% up to $10,000, property damage coverage, which pays for the damage that you do to someone else's vehicle if you're at fault for that accident, right? That's all that's required for full coverage, right? So that doesn't protect you, right? You need to have uninsured motorist coverage. You need to have collision and comp coverage so that if the person that hits you, or even if you cause the accident, you can still get your car repaired. You want to have rental coverage so that if you are at fault, you can still get a rental car while your car is being repaired. Or if the at fault person doesn't have the amount of coverage necessary, maybe it's multiple vehicles, you want to make sure that your car, your property is going to be repaired. And then on top of that, you want to make sure that, like I said before, you have that uninsured motorist coverage, because here in Florida, the minimum amount of bodily injury coverage that a person can have is $10,000. And that's what a lot of people have driving around these streets, causing a whole lot of havoc. I've seen situations where a pedestrian was hit, broke both legs, and all the person that hit him had was $10,000 in coverage. So guess what that means? That means all he is entitled to from that insurance company is $10,000. He was in the hospital for weeks, has a huge hospital bill. That $10,000 in PIP, personal injury protection coverage, that goes out the door so fast. So you want to make sure that you take care of yourself, that you have yourself covered, and you do that by making sure you have the necessary coverages to protect yourself. I tell folks all the time, if you have questions about the coverage that you have on your policy, give us a call. You could even drop it in the link below, and we'll be happy to go over your insurance coverages with you.
Definitely, yes. They must talk to an attorney, and attorney seasoned like you, that's their best option. Now, I was doing some research on this insurance and the coverage and compensation. While doing my research, Michael, I came across a very staggering fact. The fact is that insurance adjusters intentionally offer 20 to 30% of the compensation money of a total, of what your claim could be worth. Is that true? Just 20 to 30%?
They may start at that point. They often will not evaluate the claim the way we evaluate it. And so part of our job is to make sure that we get the full value of what our client's case is worth. And obviously, the insurance companies, the adjusters for the insurance companies, their job is to make sure they pay as little as possible when determining what the case is worth. So, that's why a lot of times we will have to put cases into litigation or go through mediation, go all the way to trial, if the insurance company isn't willing to pay a fair and reasonable amount for the damage that was caused by their insured.
Michael, you have decades of experience dealing with personal injury cases.
When you say that, you just make me feel old, Raj. Just say I have a lot of experience.
You have a lot of experience. Decades of experience.
Oh, my goodness.
And I'm not going to leave that. So, yes. So tell us about one case where the insurance company gave them like a bizarre low figure, and then you came out with the case and the client was like, wow, they could not believe what they got.
Sure. A couple of cases come to mind. I had one case where my client was trying to handle the case on his own. It was an older case too, so it was probably about a year. A year had already passed since he had done any treatment, and he was just, going back and forth with the insurance company, and they had only offered him $1,500, right? And based on those same medical records that he already had, and me putting together a legal argument and a demand letter to the insurance company, speaking with the adjuster, I was able to get him $15,000, no additional treatment. And that just goes to show that it does require knowing what you're doing in order to get the maximum amount on your claim. There's other cases where the initial offer from the insurance company might be $10,000-$15,000 if it's a high limit policy, and we end up with over $100,000 for our clients. So they don't just come out right away and just offer up the money. If it's a $10,000 policy, of course, and it's clear that you have more than $10,000 worth of injuries, then we are good enough so that we can potentially get that $10,000 relatively quickly. But on those cases where the policy limits are higher, there's more that we have to do. It requires patience on our part. It requires patience on our client's part, and know that we are working on their case, but it will take time. You have to go through the process. You have to go to the doctors. You have to do the treatment that's recommended by the doctors, and then if you do what you're supposed to do, we're going to do what we're supposed to do and get you the maximum amount for your injury.
Absolutely. So I got one stat, Michael, that in 2024...
Doing these damn stats, Raj. In 2024, what happened in 2024?
Florida witnessed around 1,000 accidents on a daily basis. Now, do you have any numbers, like what is an average compensation of a case? Does the department or does the government release any data on that? What is the average compensation one can expect?
That's kind of difficult to say because every accident is different. The injuries are different. The insurance companies are different. A lot of times we'll say there's no rhyme or reason to what an insurance company will offer on a particular case. There's been situations that just leave me scratching my head because, similar situations, similar injuries, and vastly different offers,
Right.
And there a lot of times there's just no rhyme or reason. So I can't say with any certainty what the average amount is because it's based on the documentation, it's based on the accident, based on the adjuster based on the insurance company. It's just too many different factors to come up with. This is what you're going to get.
I have one question, Michael, and that's a funny one. Can I please? Now, does the does the compensation amount depend on the mood of the judge, whether he had a fight with his wife, whether the coffee was cold, what have you?
Well, so the judge doesn't actually determine what the compensation is. If we're in a situation where we are in trial, the jury is actually who comes up with the amount that they're going to award the plaintiff. Other than that, it's going to be the adjuster. So, and yeah, sometimes it does depend on whether or not that adjuster had his coffee or her coffee. Depends on what type of week they're having. It depends on so many different things. So I typically will try to be as nice as I possibly can to these adjusters until I'm not. And then we go from there.
So, do you get them hot coffees or you don't?
Absolutely not. But I will be friendly. I'm not going to be serving them up, man. Nah, they get their own damn coffee. Come on.
You and your beef with insurance companies. So, moving on, Michael, we're going to be switching gears a bit. And what we've done is we've asked our followers to send in some questions. And let me tell you, they did not disappoint. These are real questions from real people. So, are you ready? All right, first up, this one's from Julie from Tampa. She asks, can I still file a claim if I didn't go to the doctor until a few days later?
If you haven't gone to the doctor a few days, I've had cases where, like I said before, in Florida you have 14 days in which to go to the doctor. I've had clients that didn't go to the doctor in the first 3 weeks or maybe even a month, and then they realize that the pain isn't subsiding; it's still there, and so then they go to the doctor like in the fourth week. It makes it more difficult, but it's not an impossibility, and we've still gotten really good results for our clients that have done that. But we prefer, and we will state to you that it's best that you go as soon as possible after the accident.
Go meet the doctor as soon as possible, Julie. Do not delay. That's mantra. Next one's from Marcus. He wants to know, what if the accident was partly my fault? Am I just out of luck?
Okay. Potentially. It depends on how big your comparative negligence is in that accident. And by comparative negligence, here in Florida, we're a comparative negligent state. So what that means is that, and with the new tort reform law, prior to March of 2023, if you were, say, 70% at fault for the accident, the at-fault party or the other party would still owe you 30%. You could still recover 30% for your injuries. If you are any more than 50% at fault for your accident, you don't get anything. So you can't get the other 50% or the other 49%. You don't get anything. If you're more than 50% at fault for the accident, you don't get anything. So if you're less than 50% at fault for the accident, yes, you can still get compensation. Long story short.
Thank you so much. I hope your question has been answered, Marcus. Now, the next question is from Georgina, and thank you so much, Georgina, for sending in this question.
Georgina.
This is a question. Now, yes, Georgina is a name very special to Michael, and that's why he's got the smile. So she asks.
I had a law school colleague named Georgina, so that's it. Sir. She was really cool, but bruh. Wifey might be watching this at some point.
Exactly. That's why zip. Now, her question is, do I have to go to court for a claim or can it be settled quietly?
Yeah. You do not have to go to court for the claim. Most cases get resolved or settled without going into litigation. I would say about 95% of cases get resolved without litigation. Litigation, you know, is typically happens where the parties aren't seeing eye to eye as far as the value of the case, and the at fault and the plaintiff or the client is not willing to accept whatever amount the insurance company is offering. In most situations, based on the evidence, based on the injuries, based on the medical records, based on the medical expenses, we're able to get the cases resolved without having to go into litigation. So it's not absolutely necessary. But if you do want to go into litigation, we're all for it as well.
Thank you so much for this. And Georgina, you need not stress for getting to the court. So, yeah, there's another question that has kind of hit me personally. It's from Jerome. He asks, if I want to hire an experienced personal injury attorney, are they costly? Michael, this one's got my heart too, because if someone's already dealing with injuries and financial stress, hiring a lawyer sounds like a big burden.
Yeah. Well, that's a great thing about personal injury attorneys. We work on what's called a contingency fee agreement. And what that simply means is that if we don't get you paid, we don't get paid. All right. So, if I take your case and I'm not able to get you a settlement, I don't get paid. And that's because I am entitled to a percentage of the amount I get for you. Here in Florida, it's 33 and a third percent of whatever amount, just based on us sending in the van and getting your case resolved. If we have to go into litigation, then it goes up to 40%. Litigation, as we've stated before, is a little bit more hands-on for both the attorney and the client, and it takes a little bit longer as well. And if we go into litigation, but only in regards to damages, then it goes back down to 33 and a third percent, even though we're in litigation. So, yeah, long story short, unless we get you paid, you don't owe us anything. That's assuming you don't fire us after we've done work, because then we could place a lien on the case. But that's a story for another day.
Remember, my Spanish friends, no ganamos, no pagas. Now, Michael, you have been practicing this for a long time. And, we always come across few people who change us for the better or worse. And because, our professional life takes a huge, I would not say toll, but it kind of shapes how we are as a person. So, can you tell us about any case, or has there been a case that has changed you as a person or has affected your life in a huge way?
Cases that's changed me as a person. I can't say that there's a case that's changed me as a person. I am who I am based on, my mom and my family and how I was raised. But I can tell you that there are plenty of cases that's really touched me and has really made me feel, all types of different emotions. I've had a client that, there's one client that I had, and we literally litigated his case for 8 years. And during that whole time, he was so patient, and he was like the sweetest guy ever, a patient guy, very humble guy. All he wanted was for the insurance company to do the right thing. And throughout all that, he maintained his patience. He did the best that he could, even though he couldn't understand everything. And I was so happy that we were able to get him a great result, which made him very, very happy. And then there's this other clients that I've had throughout the years where I see them go through, very, very tough situations due to their injuries. And the fact that after the case is over, they're in a much better place, and they come back and they thank me for the work that me and my firm did to help them. That always just touches my heart. It really makes me enjoy what we do for our clients.
I'm really I'm very sure that you must be feeling very proud of the way, like after they've got desired results, they must be very proud of you, and you must be very proud of yourself.
Yeah, I'm proud of my team as well, because I couldn't do it without them.
Absolutely, absolutely. You are, you need your team to be who you are. Now, coming to work-life balance, I know that you as a person, you have maintained this, like you're stellar at this. Now, how do you keep your work-life balance, and that too in such a tough profession like yours? You know, how do you keep up with everything going on around you?
Uh, it's quite simple. I put my health and my physical and mental well-being first. Um, and that's because if I don't have it all together physically, mentally, spiritually, then I'm no good to help anyone else. So for me, that means that I have to get up and I have to work out every morning. I have to make sure that I'm doing the things that feeds my mind mentally. I have to make sure I'm spending time with the family, because happy spouse, happy house, and that means a lot to me. I can't be out here doing what I need to do and taking care of these clients if I know my household is in shambles, and my wife is upset, or whatever the case may be. So those things are really important for me. I also cycle. Cycling has been like one of the biggest changes that I've had in my life. I started cycling back in 2016 due to a frat brother of mine that invited me out, and I never thought that I'd like it, but I ended up loving it, and I've been doing it ever since. And it's just some place where I can go to kind of clear my mind and get back to who I need to be productive, and to be open-minded to help my clients.
Folks, I can tell you one thing. If Michael has a list of priorities, it's his family, his work, and the third is his fitness and his cycling. Nothing comes closer to that. At number three. Now, Michael, before we wrap this up, I want to ask you one thing. What is that one thing that you wish every client understood before they walked into your office?
The one thing I wish that every client understood, I mean, some do, some don't, but what I wish that everyone did was that it's a process, and we need them to do their part so that we can successfully do our part. No accident or no injury is the same. So a lot of folks will come in and say, well, such and such had a claim just like this, and they got this amount, so this is what I expect to get. And there's so many different factors that may play into what such and such got that is different from what you are dealing with. So, I hope for my clients to walk in with an open mind, be as truthful and forthcoming with what they're going through as possible, so that we can make sure that we do the best to get them the maximum amount for their injury claim.
Thank you so much, Michael, for answering all the questions with such grace and patience. And this has been such a fun session. Looking forward to the episode 2 of our podcast. And yes, to those wondering how my dress changed in the middle of the podcast, I spilled coffee.
Clumsy.
I spilled it on the floor. I had to change, and I had to change my location. But yeah, I think this one looks better. So yeah, we're gonna try and do more here. Michael, what do you say?
I like the new digs. I like it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. So whatever happens for good.
Happens
So yeah,
for a
Michael,
reason.
adios amigos.
All right. Well, this has been the first episode of my podcast. I got time today. I hope you guys liked it. Please remember to follow, click, subscribe, all that. And we'll see you again for episode 2 of I Got Time Today.